Here's another way to succeed by listening. Choose a really successful person and take him or her out to dinner and listen. Ask questions and listen. If a man is poor, he can really help himself by taking a rich person out to dinner and listening. Spend $50, $60, $80, or $100. Go for the full 9 courses. Start with the hors d'oeuvres. Ask questions. The salad takes 15 minutes. Keep the conversation going. The biggest steak in town takes 45 minutes. Keep it rolling. Ask more questions. Pour on the dessert. Stretch the meal about 2 hours. See, if you get someone successful to eat and talk for 2 hours, he or she may drop ideas in your lap that could change your life. Multiply your income by 2, by 3, by 5. But you're right. Poor people don't usually take rich people out to dinner. That's the problem. The man says if he's rich, let him buy his own dinner. I'm not coming up with any money. And besides, if you worked where I work, by the time you struggle home, it's late. You've got to have a bite to eat, watch a little TV, and get to bed. You can't spend all that time trying to find a rich man to feed. And this man's behind on his installment payment. Behind. He's a good worker, hard worker, sincere. But remember, you can work hard and be sincere all your life and wind up broke and unhappy. You've got to be better than a good worker. You've got to be a good listener. The third way to learn from others is to observe. Watch what successful people do. Here's why. Success leaves clues. Watch how the man shakes hands. Spend the money and time and the effort. They're all investments, time, effort, and money. But the payoff is so great, it's hard to compare the cost to the reward. First is the money, and it does take some money. I have a great suggestion for the cassettes and the books and the lectures, the seminars, and the videos you need for a constant flow of ideas and inspiration. Set up an educational fund. Take a portion of your income each month and set it aside to invest in all the means of the search for knowledge. Remember, the best money spent is the money spent to cultivate the genius of your own mind and spirit. Make sure you don't spend more for accommodation than you do for education. The money, small price. The promise, unlimited potential. Next is the time. That is a valuable expenditure. I understand that. To ask people for their money, that's one thing, but to ask them for their time, that's a major request. But I don't know any shortcuts to this. It takes time, precious time. The time you spend is that much less time you have to spend. You can get more money, but you can't get more time. However, life has a unique way of rewarding high investment with high return. This major investment you're making now, listening, could be that small fine-tuning you need for major accomplishment. And last, the investment in effort. There is a great deal of difference in casual listening and serious listening. Listening to know, listening to learn, listening that opens up the whole mental and spiritual process is truly an investment in effort. Bringing heavy attention to bear, that takes effort. A mental rifle shot to strike the idea target, that takes a great deal of concentrated effort. However, this effort, high gear mental machinery, is the effort investment that opens the floodgates where ideas can work their magic for you in the marketplace.
I'm gonna make a statement. I don't know how it's gonna fly in the room. Here I go. Education is not the most important thing in your life. It's not. I spoke at a school one time and I said that the principal of the school came up and had me removed from the stage. I was just trying to help his students. Education is not the most important thing. Do you know how many people I know with education that ain't working? You know how many people I know with degrees ain't got no job? Do you know how many people I know with multiple degrees ain't making no money? The single most important thing in your life is your dream. It's your dream. It's what you dream about. It's in your Bible. It says a man without a dream or vision shall perish. It don't mention education in the Bible. The University of Jamaica is not in the Bible. Harvard is not in the Bible. The Bible says a man without a dream or vision shall perish. If you got no dream, if you got no vision, you're sunk. You're done. I'm sorry. I'm just giving you the basics of how to be successful. This is how I got here. 1968, came off school off of a summer vacation. I'm 10 years old. The assignment the teacher had was everybody in the school class, write your name on a piece of paper and what you want to be when you grow up. I wrote on my paper, I want to be on TV. That's what I wrote. That lady said, turn in your paper. She went around the room, called everybody's name up. You had to stand while she read your paper. She read off everybody's name. She saved me for last. She said, little Stevie, come to the front. I'm thinking, okay, this is it. I ain't never had a gold star in school in my life. I've never been recognized for academic achievements in my life. I've never got an award of any kind in my life. Here I come, little Stevie coming to the front. But I was poor. I had to wear my my brother closed school because I didn't have a comfortable beginning. I wasn't weaned. Steve Harvey's coming to the front. I got a belt that's too big, it's tied around me twice. I'm skinny and I'm heading to the front. I walk like, they used to call me Tater Chip in school because I was shaped like a potato chip. And I walked up there and I'm standing in front of class. Now I told you a minute ago I had a severe stuttering problem and I could not talk outside of my house. I stuttered severely. I thought this woman was gonna give me a gold star because I figured nobody else in the class had wrote I want to be on TV but me. So mine must be the best answer of all of them. So I'm standing up there and that lady started in on me. She didn't call me up there to give me no gold star. She called me to the front to humiliate, and that lady did. She said, why did you put something like this on your paper? Now, you've called me to the front. You know I have a stutter problem. You know I can't talk. So she started, why did you write this on your paper? Who in your family ever been on TV? Who in this school ever been on TV? Who in this neighborhood has ever been on television? She said, why would you write something like that on your paper? And look at you standing there, you can't even talk. I was crushed. Why would you write that on your paper? You can't even talk. This is a teacher. You're supposed to be shaping and molding my mind. We pay you to educate. Why would you write something like that on your paper? You'll never be on TV. Every Christmas, I send her a flat screen TV.
Jesus in my text tonight is teaching us the kingdom of heaven is lacking. The kingdom of heaven is lack. It's not this, but it's like this. He's using something that you can understand to explain something that is beyond human reasoning. The kingdom of heaven is likened unto a master, he says, who called his servants and gave them. Now, I want you to catch this. You have the master and the servant. And if you read that with your Australian mind or your American mind or wherever you came from, if you read it through the lens of that mind in the society in which you have been raised, in which you have been developed, or in which you have been extrapolated, you will miss the power of these words because you've got the master, and one translation says the master and the slave, and the master and the slave are worlds apart. Trust me, those are not the same things at all. Jesus existed in an environment where most of the societies in which he lived during his era were in a caste system. It was not a democracy. A caste system suggests whatever status of life you are born in, you belong there. So if you were born a slave, then you stayed a slave. If you were born a master, you stayed a master. If you were born poor, you stayed poor. If you were born wealthy, you stayed wretched. There was no feeling of responsibility to raise one person up into another status of life. It is a caste system, the haves and the have-nots, the ins and the out, the master and the slave, the rich and the poor, and never the twain shall meet. So the whole notion that this master who owns the slave is getting ready to go on a trip, and he doesn't give it to his children, he doesn't give talents to his heirs, he bypasses his neighbors and gives it to a slave, is shocking. You don't give your master stuff to a slave. That's crazy. That's awesome. That's mind-boggling. The slave has been gifted with master stuff. He didn't earn it. He didn't work for it. He didn't labor to get it. He has been gifted. God wants you to understand, as far as the master is from the slave, that's how far we are from God.
First, never underestimate your own intelligence, and never overestimate the intelligence of others. Don't sell yourself short. Concentrate on your assets. Discover your superior talents. Remember, it's not the amount of intelligence you have that counts. It's how you use what you've got. Learn to effectively manage your brains instead of worrying about your IQ. Secondly, constantly remind yourself, my attitudes are more important than my intelligence. At work and at home, practice positive attitudes. See the reasons why you can do it, not the reasons why you can't. Put your intelligence to creative, positive use. Find ways to win, not ways to lose. Finally, remember that the ability to think is much more valuable than the ability to memorize facts. Use your mind to create and develop ideas, to seek solutions, to find new and better ways of doing things.
So far, we've talked about belief as a basic ingredient of success, and we've talked about excuse-itis as a major cause of failure. Now I want to state for you the most important single concept in your plan for personal success. Where success is concerned, people are not measured in inches or pounds or college degrees or family background. They are measured by the size of their thinking. How big we think determines the size of our accomplishments. So what we are going to do now is to enlarge your thinking. The first step in this process is to clear away some of the obstacles to thinking big. One of the first ones is self-deprecation. That is, the tendency to run ourselves down or sell ourselves short. This is a very common failure, and many people condemn themselves to a life of mediocrity by refusing to believe in their own abilities and their own self-worth. But I can prove to you right now, by way of another experiment in your people laboratory, that you are many times more accomplished, smarter, and better than you think you are. Here's the experiment.
First, think of your 3 major assets. These can be anything that you know that you're good at. You may be well organized, or a good listener, or perhaps you're good at creative solutions to everyday problems. Whatever these are, think of 3 positive attributes that you give yourself credit for. Now, considering each asset in turn, one at a time, think of at least 2 people that you know who you consider more successful than yourself, but who you feel do not have that particular asset to the degree that you do. For example, maybe your coworker got a promotion last month, but you didn't. But if you think about it, you're a better problem solver than that person is. Do this process for each of the 3 assets you've chosen. And once you've done that, consider this conclusion. You've just identified at least 6 people who are now more successful than you, and in at least one area, you're better than all of them. So the next time you're selling yourself short, recall this experiment and enlarge your thinking. It's important to keep in mind that there's nothing abstract or mystical about learning to think big. It's a very concrete, practical process, and there are specific things you can do to develop the skill. For example, consider the way you speak. Now, words are the raw materials of thought. When you hear words or read words, your mind automatically converts them into images. And when you're doing the speaking or the writing, you're acting as a kind of projector, in effect showing movies in the minds of others. The pictures that you create will determine the reactions to what you're saying. For example, let's suppose you're in a group of people at work, and a supervisor comes before your group and says, "Well, I'm sorry to say that this project has failed." Now, what's your group going to see from these words? What kind of images will you get? You'll see images of disappointment and defeat, inspired by that word, failed. But now let's suppose the supervisor comes before the group and says, "I've got a new approach here that I really believe will work, and I'd like to get your feedback on it." Now, this is a response that will easily fit the same situation, but the supervisor has not created any negative images. Instead, he's created positive ones. The group feels encouraged. They're ready to try again. By the same token, if the supervisor says, "We've got a problem," then the task ahead looks formidable, maybe even insurmountable. But if instead he says, "We face a challenge," then your mind images are likely to be positive. You've got something to look forward to, something to really sink your teeth into. The point is simply this: big thinkers are specialists in creating positive, forward-looking, optimistic pictures in their own minds and in the minds of others. To think big, we have to use words and phrases that produce big, positive mental images. So here are some examples of phrases that create negative small mental images, followed by phrases that create big positive ones. Listen to each of these and ask yourself in each case, what mind pictures do I see?
I've tried, but this product just won't sell. The fact is, people don't want it.
So far, I haven't been able to move this product, but I know it's good, and I'm going to find the formula that'll put it across.
I was in that business once, but it failed. Never again.
I went broke the first time, but I learned a lot from it. Now I'm ready to give it another shot.
Well, let's face it. This was over. We're whipped.
This is far from over. Let's keep trying. Hey, I've got a great idea.
Did you notice the difference in the images that those phrases created? Now, listen to the words that you hear around you every day and see if you can perceive the difference between the images created by successful people and the images created by mediocre people. And while you're doing this, start developing your own Big Thinker's vocabulary. You can do it with these 4 steps. First, use big, positive, cheerful words and phrases to describe how you feel. Remember the cures for health excusitis? When you say, I feel great, you make yourself feel better, and you make others around you feel better too. Say that you feel wonderful at every possible opportunity, and you'll begin to feel better and bigger and more successful. Second, use bright, cheerful, favorable words to describe other people. When you and someone else are discussing a third party who's not present, don't run that person down. Instead, go out of your way to compliment that person with big words and phrases, like, they tell me she's working out fantastically well. Everybody's delighted she's here. Sooner or later, negative words will get back to the person in question, and that will only serve to cut you down. Next, use positive language to encourage others. Compliment people personally at every opportunity. Everyone craves praise. Have a special good word for your wife or husband every day. Notice and compliment the people who work with you and for you. Praise, sincerely administered, is a success tool. It's one we'll discuss more later. Learn to use this tool again and again. Finally, use positive words to outline plans to others. Go back to our list of negative and positive phrases from a few minutes ago. Make the positive images part of your vocabulary and weed out the negative ones. When people hear you say, here's some good news, we've got a genuine opportunity, then you'll get cooperation, enthusiasm, and success in return. But if you say, like it or not, we've got a job to do, then you're creating a dull, boring image, and people will react accordingly. So build castles with your words. Don't dig graves.
So the very first time I hosted the show, we got to the end, and I was to announce the winner of the 2015 Miss Universe pageant. Now, we had rehearsed this all week long. We would announce the second runner-up and then the winner. Second runner-up and then the winner. They changed it. I said that's the best way to do it. So that night, and all in rehearsal, 2 names on the card. They just put fake names on the card because they don't know. All through rehearsal, 2 names on the card. That night, when it's time to announce the winner, the teleprompter, they handed me the card. I see the 2 names, and I got the card down. The teleprompter, right inside the camera, says, and the new 2015 Miss Universe is, that's what it said. I read that, I'm looking, that's it, I'm reading, I can read. I ain't all that smart, but I can read. The new 2015 Miss Universe is, I wear an IBF in my ear. It's 2 names on the card. He says, say the second name, hold. Now, Miss Columbia. Great job, Steve. Go in the back. Set up for the close. I go in the back. 2 minutes later, the stage manager comes to me and goes, Steve, you said the wrong name. Who are you talking to? He said, Steve, you said the wrong name. I didn't say the wrong name. I read the teleprompter, then I read the name on the card. I read it. It's right there. It said Miss Columbia. It ain't 2 of them, it's just 1. He said, but they put a 3rd name on the card. It was under your thumb. I said, wait a minute. We've been practicing all week with just 2 names. Who put the 3rd name on the card? When was y'all gonna tell me? He said, don't worry about it. We'll straighten it out tomorrow in the newspaper. I said, oh, no. I go out here now. Because my father raised me to be a man of honor. That when you make a mistake, you have to own up to it. So I said, I'm going to go out here and I'm going to tell them now. because the winner was really Miss Philippines. Miss Philippines was the winner. I said, Miss Columbia, it's a mistake, I go out. I said, I made a huge mistake. My wife was on the third row. I saw her face. My son was sitting next to her. I saw them, they looked so hurtful. It was the worst mistake in television. So I said, I'm sorry, but this is the mistake that was made. I said, it was my fault.
you get your money's worth, right? When you shell out your cash, especially these days, you want to make sure you get full value for the money you spend. And I know the tab for the seminar was not that much, pretty modest fee to get in. Most of you, your tips for the week, right? So it wasn't that much, but I want you to be able to say when you walk out of here today, it was worth my money. But my biggest responsibility is to make sure you get your time's worth. And the reason I say that is because time is more valuable than money. In fact, you might start your notes with that. Time is more valuable than money. You can get more money, but unfortunately you can't get more time. If somebody asks you to spend your money, that's pretty easy, right? We live in America, we're wealthy, so the money's not the problem. But what if somebody asks you to spend a day, right? You got to think that over carefully, and I know you did. I wouldn't waste one of my days, not for anybody, not for anything. Once I understood how valuable they were, I don't waste any. But to make an investment like today of your money and your time, I appreciate that. Today's going to be costly for me. It's going to cost me one of my days to be here, right? And some money, of course, but I don't need the money. I take the money, but I don't need the money. But guess what I do need? The time. So I'm here not to just joke with you. I'm here not to just tell some funny stories and give a performance and walk away. I'm here to give you some value, and I want to make it worth your time. I'm going to invest a day. You're going to invest a day. Let's get the most out of it and see what we can walk away with today. Anyway, for you that have not seen me before, just very briefly, let me just tell you my story. I grew up in Idaho, farm country, southwest corner of Idaho. In fact, my father still lives on the old homestead where I grew up. He'll be 89 his next birthday. Still hasn't retired. I'm proud of my dad. He's never been ill. He's really something. I'm trying to get him to retire this year, 88. I'm telling my father, what a good year to retire when you're 88. And he says, hey, talk to me in 10 years. I might be ready. But anyway, I went to high school. I graduated. I went to college 1 year. Halfway through my second year of college, I decided I was smart enough, so I quit. One of my major mistakes. I should have stayed in school. But I thought, heck, I'm smart enough to get a job. That's what life's all about, right? Get a job, pay your bills, work hard, stay out of trouble, keep your fingers crossed, hope for the best. And I figured I was at least prepared to do that. So I quit college and went to work. A little while later, got married, got my little family going, and I'm out there doing what I thought was the best I could. But about age 25, I'm starting to struggle. I've purchased a little more than I can conveniently pay for on time, and the creditors are starting to call saying, hey, you told us the check was in mail. What's the deal? And I'm getting embarrassed by that. I'm also embarrassed, big mouth me, with all the fancy promises I made to get married. I'm way behind on those promises, and I'm getting discouraged, wondering what to do. And I thought, well, maybe I should go back to school, right? 1 year of college, pretty short on an application. But, tough to go back to school, right? Especially when you got your family going. Time to stay is when you're there. So I discounted that. I thought, well, if I, had my own business, that would be the way to go. But, I'm short on money. Too much month at the end of the money. If you've ever been there, that's where I was, age 25. So I had to discount that, and I'm discouraged, wondering, where do I go from here? And then the miracle happened for me. Good fortune came my way. And who can explain good fortune? I don't know. Remarkable things that happen to you at a particular time. Sometimes it's just unexplainable how those things happen.
Very good. I like to ask that question. There's no saying that if you aim at nothing in life, you hit nothing dead on the head. I've been looking at my life and reflecting on my life because 10 years ago I was diagnosed with prostate cancer. I stand before you because of God's grace and mercy and faith, and knowing that as we work together, as we believe in the possibilities of the fact that healing takes place first within, then without, the possibility is unlimited of what we can do. I'm going to do a national tour called You Are More Powerful Than Cancer. One of the things I think doctors should never tell anyone they're terminally ill. I think what they should say is that my knowledge and ability to help you has terminated. My PSA 10 years ago was 110. As I stand before you, it's 270. 1 to 4 men, that's normal. And PSA stands for prostate specific antigen, but to me, PSA stands for positively staying alive. I was reflecting on my life during the time when I received 238 radiation seed implants. And as I looked at my life, I asked myself a question. And I want to ask you a question. How many of you know if you had your life to live over again, you could have done more than what you've done thus far? Raise your hands, please. Now, that proves the point of what we do what we accomplish, what we produce in life is only a tip of the iceberg of what's possible for us. I want you to think about some major goal that gives your life a sense of meaning right now. And as you're thinking about that, I want you to shake someone's hand on your right and your left and around you. Look them in the eyes and say with conviction, you have something special. Do that quickly now, please. Tell them you have something special. Yes. So now, I want you to join me right now. I want you to think about some major goal that you'd like to achieve. Something that gives your life a sense of meaning. Something that will give your life a sense of purpose and direction. My first major goal was to buy my mother a home. That was important to me. I'm adopted. I was born in a poor section of Miami, Florida called Liberty City, in an abandoned building on a floor with a twin brother. And when we were 6 weeks of age, we were adopted by Mrs. Mamie Brown. My mother was 46 years of age. She only had a third grade education, but she had a PhD in mother wit. I feel like Abraham Lincoln, who said, all that I am and all that ever hope to be, I owe to my mother. I saw a sign once that said, God took me out of my biological mother's womb and placed me in the heart of my adopted mother. So my goal and dream was to buy my mother a home, to take care of my mother. My mother was a domestic worker on Miami Beach, and she would go to work, and many days she would take us with her. And we ate the food left over from the families that my mother cooked for. They were very kind and generous people. They would say, Mamie, whatever food is left over after you cook, you can pack it up and take it home to the children, the food that's left over after we eat, and feed those 7 children that you have adopted. Because of their generosity, many nights we did not go to bed hungry because they were so kind and so giving. We wore the hand-me-down clothes of the children that Mama kept. If they were too small, Mama could sew, she would let them out. If they were too large, she would take them in. And my mother was a great baker. She could bake a cake. She could bake a sweet potato pie so good you couldn't eat it with your shoes on.
You're going to see the end of it. The Lord have done great things for us. Have you thought about that lately? Have you ever had to remind yourself how blessed you were? That the Lord have done great things for us? You know it's the enemy's job to always show you the negative, but you got to count up the positive and say, you know what? It's not as bad as I think it is. The Lord have done great things for us. And I'm going to go ahead and be glad. I give you permission to be glad. I give you permission to have joy. I give you permission to get your smile back. I give you permission to get your praise back. I give you permission. Some of you have not had permission. You've been locked up. You've been shackled down. You've been bound. You've been held captive by a spirit of defeatism. But I break you loose, and I give you permission right now. I break every bond of your spirit. Well, we are glad. We are glad. Turn again our captivity as you did the streams in the south. Turn it absolutely around until I look schizophrenic. Turn it around until they think I've lost my mind. Turn it around until the last time you saw me, I was laying down crying like this, and you thought I would never get back. And when you come back in the door, I'm laughing and dancing and shouting and praising. God will turn it around. He turned our captivity around. And then the writer says that you can. The writer reveals that the tears were never tears at all. It was how God irrigated the seeds I sowed, that not one tear was wasted. For every tear I shed, I watered a promise. And they that sow in tears shall reap in joy. Now to all of you that I'm preaching to who have not gone through any dark places, this is not your Sunday. You can go ahead and log off, because this Sunday I'm talking to people who have been to hell and back. I'm talking to people who have dealt with things they could say nothing about. I'm talking to people who have grown within themselves, and I'm telling you it was not without cause. They that sow in tears shall reap in joy. I tell you, it's gonna be schizophrenia. You're gonna be sowing in tears and reaping in joy. You're gonna sow it in suffering. You're gonna reap it in dancing. You're gonna sow it in pain. You're gonna reap it in purpose. You're going to sow it in agony. You're going to reap it in power. God is getting ready to bring us into the fruition. And you know how I know? Because all hell is breaking loose. That's how I know it. Because things that you've never seen before are starting to happen. Because we are seeing devils being loosed out of the pits of hell to come against us right now. The devil wouldn't be fighting us if there weren't something on the other side of this. And I don't know what you're going to do about it, but I'm going to hold on.